She served them dinner while his pregnant mistress ate in her master bed. Darnell's family threw drinks at her face. His mother spit on her cheek. They called her worthless trash. What Darnell didn't know, every property he'd lived in belonged to her. Her father's will revealed $88 billion waiting. The penthouse was silent except for the sound of Nicole's hands trembling as she placed the roasted chicken on the dining table. She had spent 6 hours preparing this meal, 6 hours chopping vegetables, seasoning meat, baking cornbread from scratch, the kind her grandmother used to make, the kind Darnell used to say he loved. But tonight, Darnell wasn't even looking at her. He was looking at Candace, the woman sitting in Nicole's chair at the head of the table, her pregnant belly pressing against the mahogany edge, her smile wide and triumphant. Nicole stood in the corner of the dining room like hired help, like she didn't belong in her own home. Darnell's entire family had gathered for what he called a special announcement, and Nicole had prepared everything perfectly because that's what she always did. She made things perfect even when her world was falling apart. Darnell's mother Sharon sat to Candace's right, her diamond rings catching the chandelier light as she reached over and squeezed Candace's hand like they were old friends. Darnell's brother Andre lounged back in his chair, scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing up at Nicole with a smirk that made her stomach turn. Darnell stood up, his glass of champagne raised high, and the room fell quiet. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, the kind of handsome that turned heads when he walked into a room. Nicole had fallen in love with that face 7 years ago. She used to think his smile could heal anything. Now that same smile made her feel sick. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," Darnell said, his voice smooth and confident. "I've got some news that's going to change everything for this family." He looked down at Candace and she looked up at him with adoring eyes. Nicole felt her heart crack a little more. "Candace is 6 months pregnant with my child," Darnell announced, and the room erupted in cheers. Sharon jumped up from her seat and hugged Candace like she'd just won the lottery. Andre whistled and clapped. Darnell's father, a quiet man who rarely spoke, nodded his approval and raised his glass. Nicole stood frozen in the corner, her hands gripping the edge of the serving tray, so hard her knuckles went white. 6 months. He'd been cheating on her for at least 9 months, maybe longer, and now he was celebrating it in their home, at their table, with his entire family. Sharon turned to Nicole then, her eyes cold and sharp. "Well, don't just stand there like a statue," she snapped. "Pour the champagne. We're celebrating." Nicole's hands shook as she walked over to the table and began filling glasses. She could feel their eyes on her, judging her, mocking her. When she reached Sharon's glass, the older woman pulled it away at the last second, causing Nicole to spill champagne on the white tablecloth. "Clumsy as always," Sharon muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Andre laughed. Candace didn't even try to hide her grin. Darnell cleared his throat and continued. "There's more," he said, and Nicole's stomach dropped. "Candace is going to be moving into the master bedroom. She needs comfort and space during her pregnancy. Nicole," he finally looked at her, and there was nothing in his eyes, no love, no guilt, nothing. "You'll be staying in the basement until you learn your place in this family." The words hit Nicole like a punch to the chest. The basement. The cold, unfinished basement, with concrete floors and a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. He wanted her to sleep down there while his pregnant mistress took over her bed, her room, her life. "About time you got rid of that burden," Andre said, raising his glass toward Darnell. "A man needs a woman who can actually make him happy, not some frigid—" Sharon cut him off with a raised hand, but she was smiling. She turned to Nicole, and in that moment Nicole saw pure hatred in the older woman's eyes. "You never deserved my son," Sharon said quietly, but her voice carried across the silent room. "You've been dead weight since the day you married him. No kids, no passion, no fire, just a sad little girl playing house." Nicole opened her mouth to speak, to defend herself, to say something, anything, but no words came out. What could she say? That she'd been trying to have a baby for 5 years? That Darnell had refused to go to the fertility doctor with her? That she'd given up her career, her dreams, her entire life to support his rise in the real estate world? None of it mattered anymore. They'd already decided who she was. Worthless. Trash. Nothing. Sharon stood up from the table and walked slowly toward Nicole. The room watched in silence. When Sharon reached her, she picked up her wine glass and, without hesitation, threw the red liquid directly into Nicole's face. The cold wine splashed across Nicole's cheeks, dripped down her neck, stained the white blouse she'd ironed that morning. Nicole gasped, but she didn't move, didn't wipe her face, didn't run. She just stood there, frozen in shock and humiliation, and then Sharon leaned in close, so close Nicole could smell her expensive perfume, and she spit on Nicole's cheek. The saliva slid down slowly, mixing with the wine, and Sharon whispered, "You worthless trash. You never deserved my son." Candace laughed from her seat at the table. Andre recorded the whole thing on his phone. Darnell looked away, his jaw tight, but he said nothing. He didn't stop his mother. He didn't defend his wife. He just let it happen. Nicole stood there for what felt like forever, wine dripping from her chin, spit sliding down her face, her heart breaking into pieces so small she didn't think they could ever be put back together. Then, slowly, she set down the serving tray, picked up the small pillow and blanket she'd already prepared, because somehow she'd known this was coming, and walked toward the basement door. Behind her, she heard the champagne bottles popping, the laughter rising, the celebration continuing like she'd never been there at all. The basement was cold and dark. Nicole descended the wooden steps carefully, her vision blurred by tears she refused to let fall in front of them. When she reached the bottom, she sat down on the concrete floor, pulled the thin blanket around her shoulders, and finally let herself cry. Above her head, she could hear the music starting, the stomping of feet as they danced, the sound of her husband's laughter mixing with his mistress's high-pitched giggles. This was her life now. This was what 7 years of marriage had brought her. Nicole reached up and touched the small gold locket hanging around her neck. It was the only piece of jewelry she never took off, the only thing that still felt like home. Her father had given it to her on her 16th birthday, and inside was a tiny photo of the two of them together, smiling back when the world still made sense. She opened the locket now and whispered to the photo, "I promised you I'd be strong, Daddy. I'm trying. I'm really trying." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw an email notification. Estate settlement, urgent. She stared at it for a moment, then turned off her phone and set it aside. She was too broken to care about anything right now. But let's go back. Let's go back 7 years, to a time when Nicole still believed in love and happy endings. Let's go back to a small southern town where a young girl lived with her father in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. Samuel was a quiet man, the kind who worked 3 jobs and never complained. During the day, he was a janitor at the local high school. At night, he cleaned office buildings downtown, and on weekends, he studied business books at the public library, taking notes in a worn notebook he carried everywhere. People in town thought Samuel was just a simple working man trying to get by. They had no idea who he really was. Nicole was 16 when her father gave her the gold locket. They were sitting on their apartment's small balcony, eating birthday cake Samuel had baked himself, because they couldn't afford a bakery cake. It was lopsided and the frosting was uneven, but it was made with love, and that's all that mattered to Nicole. Samuel pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and handed it to her. "Happy birthday, baby girl," he said softly. Nicole opened the box and gasped. The locket was beautiful, delicate gold with intricate engravings along the edges. She opened it and saw their photo inside, a picture from when she was 10, both of them grinning at the camera at the county fair. "Daddy, this must have cost so much," Nicole whispered, tears filling her eyes. Samuel shook his head. "You're worth more than all the gold in the world," he said. He reached over and fastened the locket around her neck. "I want you to promise me something, Nicole. No matter what happens in life, no matter how hard things get, never let anyone make you feel small. You carry royalty in your blood. You're a queen, baby girl. Don't you ever forget that." Nicole hugged her father tight. "I promise, Daddy, I won't forget." Samuel worked himself to the bone to send Nicole to college. She studied business and finance, graduated top of her class, and landed a job at a prestigious corporate firm in the city. She was 23, brilliant, beautiful, and full of dreams. That's when she met Darnell. He was 28, charming, smooth-talking, working his way up in commercial real estate. He pursued Nicole relentlessly. Flowers every week, romantic dinners, weekend getaways. He made her feel like the most important woman in the world. Nicole fell hard and fast, but Samuel didn't trust him. The one time Darnell came to visit their small apartment, Samuel watched him carefully. He saw the way Darnell's eyes swept over their humble furniture, the way he checked his expensive watch when he thought no one was looking, the way he talked about money and success like they were the only things that mattered. After Darnell left, Samuel sat Nicole down and said, "Baby girl, that man loves what you can give him, not who you are. Be careful." Nicole laughed it off. "Daddy, you worry too much. He loves me. I know he does." 2 weeks before Nicole's wedding, Samuel disappeared, just vanished without a trace. Nicole came home from work one day and found their apartment empty. No note, no goodbye, no explanation. She called the police, filed missing persons reports, searched everywhere. But Samuel was gone, like he'd never existed. The authorities found nothing. No body, no evidence, no leads. The case went cold. Nicole was devastated, heartbroken, lost. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. Darnell was there through it all, holding her while she cried, telling her everything would be okay. "I'll take care of you now," he whispered. "You don't need him. You have me." 6 months later, still grieving, still searching for answers that never came, Nicole married Darnell. She wore her father's locket under her wedding dress, close to her heart. She whispered a prayer that wherever her daddy was, he knew she loved him. The wedding was beautiful. Darnell's family was there, smiling and congratulating them. Nicole's side of the church was empty except for a few college friends. She had no family left. Just Darnell now, just the man who promised to love her forever. For the first year, things were good. Darnell was attentive and loving. They moved into a nice apartment, both working hard to build their careers. But slowly, things began to change. Darnell started staying late at work, coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't Nicole's. He became critical of everything she did, her cooking, her appearance, her career. "You're good at numbers," he'd say dismissively, "but you're not a leader like me. You don't have what it takes to be great." Then Darnell moved them into the penthouse mansion. It was massive, luxurious, everything Nicole had ever dreamed of. "This is my company's property," Darnell explained. "I worked hard for this, babe. We've made it." Nicole believed him. She quit her job to support his career full-time, managing their home, hosting dinners for his business partners, being the perfect wife. She didn't know that every property Darnell claimed as his was actually leased from shell companies she'd never heard of. She didn't know that her father had been building an empire in the shadows, watching over her, protecting her even from beyond the grave. Candace entered their lives as Darnell's business partner. She was young, ambitious, bold, and everything Darnell said, Nicole wasn't. He started comparing them constantly. Candace closed 3 deals this week. What did you do, Nicole? Clean the house? The gaslighting was subtle at first, then became vicious. When Nicole confronted him about the late nights and the lipstick on his collar, he exploded. You're paranoid, you're insecure. Maybe if you were woman enough, I wouldn't need to work so hard. Sharon, Darnell's mother, made everything worse. She visited every week, criticizing Nicole's cooking, her clothes, her inability to get pregnant. My son deserves better than a woman who can't even give him children, Sharon would say loud enough for Darnell to hear. Nicole had been trying to get pregnant for 5 years. She'd been to doctors, taken tests, begged Darnell to go to a fertility specialist with her. He always refused. It's probably you, he'd say cruelly. My boys swim just fine. The pain of infertility was Nicole's deepest wound, and Sharon weaponized it every chance she got. One afternoon, Nicole left work early and saw Darnell and Candace leaving a hotel together, laughing, his arm around her waist. Nicole's heart shattered. She confronted him that night, and he denied everything. We had a business lunch. You're seeing things that aren't there. But Nicole knew. She knew in her bones. The next day, she confronted him at his office in front of his colleagues. I saw you with her, Nicole said, her voice shaking. Darnell's face went red with rage. You're embarrassing yourself, he hissed. Candace walked over smirking. Sweetie, if you can't satisfy your man, don't blame the woman who can. The office went silent. People recorded on their phones. Nicole ran out, humiliated, destroyed. 2 months later, Darnell came home and told Nicole to pack her things. Candace is pregnant. She's moving in. You're moving to the basement. Nicole begged. She got on her knees and begged. Terrence, please, we can work this out. I love you. We can go to counseling. Please don't do this. He looked at her with disgust. There's nothing to work out. You're nothing, Nicole. You've always been nothing. Then he slapped her hard across the face, and Nicole fell to the floor. Sharon arrived an hour later with Candace, helping the pregnant woman move into the master bedroom, laughing and chatting like this was the most normal thing in the world. Nicole carried her pillow and blanket to the basement and cried herself to sleep on the concrete floor. Which brings us back to tonight, the dinner party, the champagne, the spit on her face, the laughter from above. Nicole lay on the basement floor, broken and numb, touching her father's locket like it was a lifeline. Daddy, I failed you, she whispered. I let them break me. I'm sorry. She closed her eyes and prayed for strength she didn't have any more. 3 days passed. Nicole stayed in the basement, barely eating, barely sleeping. She could hear Candace and Darnell laughing in the master bedroom above her head. She could hear Sharon visiting every day, cooing over Candace's belly, talking about baby showers and nursery colors. Nicole felt like a ghost in her own home. Then, at 6 in the morning on the 4th day, her phone rang. Nicole almost didn't answer, but something told her to pick up. Ms. Nicole Anderson? A deep voice said on the other end. Yes, Nicole whispered. This is Harrison Blake, senior partner at Blake & Associates. I'm calling about your father, Samuel Anderson. Nicole's heart stopped. My father? He's been missing for 7 years. There was a pause. Ma'am, your father didn't go missing. He went into deep cover to build an empire. He passed away 2 weeks ago from a heart condition. You are his sole heir. I need you to come to my office immediately. There are matters we need to discuss. Nicole sat up, her hands shaking. What are you talking about? My father was a janitor. He didn't have anything. Mr. Harrison's voice was gentle but firm. Ms. Anderson, your father left you $88 billion in assets, properties, and businesses. This includes every property your husband has ever lived in. Please come to my office. We have a lot to go over. 2 hours later, Nicole sat in Mr. Harrison's office, a sleek high-rise in the financial district. The lawyer was an older black man with kind eyes and a file folder 3 inches thick on his desk. He slid documents across the table to Nicole, and she read them with trembling hands. Her father, Samuel Anderson, had been a genius investor. While working as a janitor, he'd been quietly buying properties, investing in tech startups, building shell companies. He'd hidden his wealth to protect Nicole from gold diggers and enemies. He'd faked his disappearance 7 years ago to watch from the shadows, to see who would truly love his daughter when they thought she had nothing. Your father wanted you to know who truly loved you, Mr. Harrison explained. He left specific instructions. Let her see who they are without my money, then give her everything. Nicole's tears fell onto the documents. Every property Darnell had claimed as his own, the penthouse, the office building, the cars, everything was leased from companies Samuel owned. Nicole now owned those companies. She owned the ground Darnell walked on. Your father watched over you this whole time, Mr. Harrison said softly. He knew what Darnell was. He knew what his family was doing to you. He wanted you to see it for yourself, to grow strong enough to walk away. He believed in you, Ms. Anderson. He never stopped believing in you. Nicole read the final letter from her father, written in his handwriting. My beautiful daughter, if you're reading this, you've walked through fire and survived. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from every pain, but I knew you were strong enough. You are a queen. Never let anyone make you bow. I love you forever. Daddy. Nicole wiped her tears and stood up. Something shifted inside her. The broken woman who'd been sleeping on a basement floor was gone. In her place stood a billionaire heiress who'd been underestimated for the last time. Mr. Harrison, Nicole said, her voice steady and cold, I want to take back everything that belongs to me. And I want to do it publicly, very publicly, the lawyer smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Nicole returned to the penthouse that afternoon while Darnell was at work. She didn't pack anything except her father's locket. She put on a tailored black suit she'd bought with her new platinum card, had her hair and makeup done at the most expensive salon in the city, and transformed. When she looked in the mirror, she saw her father's eyes looking back at her. I kept my promise, Daddy, she said softly. I didn't bow. And now I'm going to rise. That night was Darnell's big real estate gala. He'd been working on this event for months, trying to close the biggest deal of his career. It was being held at a luxury hotel ballroom, packed with investors, developers, media, and cameras. Darnell was in his element, wearing a custom tuxedo, Candace on his arm in a maternity gown, her pregnant belly on full display. Sharon and Andre were there too, celebrating, drinking champagne, acting like royalty. They had no idea what was about to happen. The ballroom doors opened and Nicole walked in. The room went silent. Every head turned. She was stunning, glowing, regal, powerful. Darnell's face went white. Nicole, he stammered, what are you doing here? Nicole walked through the crowd with her head held high, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She walked straight to the stage, took the microphone from the event host, and turned to face the room. Good evening, everyone, Nicole said, her voice calm and clear. My name is Nicole Anderson. Some of you know me as Darnell's wife. Tonight, I'm here as the sole owner of Anderson Global Holdings. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Darnell started toward the stage. Nicole, what are you talking about? Get down from there. Nicole clicked a remote and screens around the ballroom lit up with property deeds, business documents, financial records. All of them had her name on them. The penthouse you moved your mistress into? Mine. The office building you work in? Mine. The car you drove here tonight? Mine. Every property you've called yours for the last 7 years, I own it. My father, Samuel Anderson, built an $88 billion empire, and he left every single penny to me. The room erupted in chaos. Cameras flashed. People pulled out their phones. Darnell stumbled backward like he'd been shot. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Your father was a janitor." Nicole's eyes were ice cold. "My father was a king, and you treated his daughter like trash." She turned to Candace, who was clutching Darnell's arm, her face pale. "The master bedroom you're sleeping in? I'm evicting you tomorrow morning. Security will escort you out at 9 a.m. Candace's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Sharon tried to speak, tried to move forward, but Nicole cut her off with a single look. "The woman you spit on owns everything you've ever touched. The woman you called worthless is worth $88 billion. The woman you made sleep in a basement owns the ceiling you sleep under." Nicole's voice never rose, never shook. She was calm, devastated, powerful. "You didn't need to know my bank account to treat me with respect, Darnell. You just needed to be a decent human being. You failed." Darnell fell to his knees in front of the entire ballroom. "Nicole, please. I didn't know. I'm sorry. We can fix this." Nicole looked down at him without pity. "You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference." She stepped down from the stage, walked past him without a second glance, and left the ballroom. Behind her, the cameras kept flashing. The reporters kept shouting questions, and Darnell stayed on his knees, destroyed. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and public humiliation. Nicole's legal team served eviction notices to everyone. Darnell was removed from the penthouse, the office, everything. His real estate empire was built entirely on properties he never owned. When investors found out, they pulled out immediately. His company collapsed within 72 hours. He was left with nothing, no home, no job, no reputation, no money. Candace didn't even wait a week before she left him. Nicole's private investigator captured the whole thing on camera. Candace screamed at Darnell in a parking lot. "You told me you were rich. You told me we'd have everything." Darnell grabbed her hands, begging, "We can figure this out. Please don't leave me. I love you." Candace ripped her hands away. "I don't love broke men. You lied to me. I'm done." She got into another man's car, one of Darnell's former business partners, and drove away. Darnell stood alone in that parking lot, homeless and heartbroken, exactly like he'd left Nicole. Sharon and Andre showed up at Nicole's corporate headquarters a month later, desperate and broke. Security called Nicole to ask if she wanted to see them. Nicole came down to the lobby herself. Sharon looked terrible, no makeup, cheap clothes, her pride shattered. "Nicole, please," Sharon begged, tears running down her face. "We're family. We made mistakes. Please, help us." Nicole looked at the woman who had spit on her face and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just emptiness. "You called me worthless," Nicole said quietly. "You spit on me in my own home. You celebrated while your son destroyed me. You're not my family, Sharon. You never were." She nodded to security, and they escorted Sharon and Andre out. Darnell had been giving his family money for years, paying their mortgages, their car notes, their credit cards. Now that was gone. They lost everything within months. Their homes were foreclosed. Their cars were repossessed. The high society friends they'd bragged to wanted nothing to do with them. The video from the gala went viral. 30 million views in 3 days. Headlines everywhere. Billionaire wife destroys cheating husband at his own event. Man moves mistress into wife's bedroom, finds out she owns everything. Social media tore Darnell apart. He couldn't go outside without being recognized and mocked. People yelled at him in grocery stores, restaurants, on the street. He became a national symbol of arrogance and stupidity. He tried reaching out to Nicole 100 times. Calls, texts, emails, letters. She blocked everything. 6 months after the gala, Darnell tracked Nicole down outside her corporate headquarters. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were hollow, and he'd lost at least 30 pounds. "Nicole, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I was wrong about everything. I need you. I can't live like this. Please give me another chance." Nicole looked at him, and for a moment she felt something close to pity. Not love, never love again, but pity for a man who'd destroyed his own life. "Darnell," she said softly, "I don't hate you. I pity you. You had a queen, and you treated her like a servant. You had loyalty, and you chose betrayal. You had love, and you chose lust. That's your punishment, knowing what you lost and knowing you can never get it back. Live with that." She got into her car, and as she drove away, she saw Darnell in the rearview mirror, collapsing on the sidewalk, his head in his hands, weeping like a child. 1 year later, Nicole stood on the balcony of her coastal estate, watching the sunrise over the ocean. The estate was quiet, peaceful, nothing like the chaos of the penthouse. She'd built schools in her father's name, shelters for abused women, scholarship programs for kids who looked like she did. Black, brilliant, and underestimated, she ran Anderson Global with wisdom and compassion, hiring people who'd been overlooked, investing in communities that had been ignored. She was at peace, not happy yet, but healing, and that was enough. Mr. Harrison visited her that morning with one final letter from her father, sealed with instructions not to open until 1 year had passed. Nicole sat on her balcony and opened it with trembling hands. Her father's handwriting was shaky, written in his final days, but his words were strong. "My beautiful daughter, if you're reading this, you've walked through fire and survived. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from every pain, but I knew you were strong enough. You are a queen. Never let anyone make you bow. I love you forever." "Daddy!" Nicole cried, but they were different tears now. Healing tears, grateful tears. She'd kept her promise. She hadn't bowed. She'd risen. She visited her father's grave that afternoon, placed fresh flowers on the headstone, and knelt in the grass. "You were right about everything, Daddy," she whispered. "You were right about Darnell. You were right about my strength. Thank you for never giving up on me." She touched the locket around her neck, opened it, looked at their photo. "I kept my promise. I didn't bow." She stood up and walked back to her car. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Nicole drove away from the cemetery feeling lighter than she had in years. She didn't know what the future held. Maybe she'd fall in love again someday. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she'd have children. Maybe she wouldn't. But she knew one thing for certain. She would never again let anyone make her feel small. She was Samuel Anderson's daughter. She was royalty. She was a queen. They called her worthless because she stayed quiet. They mocked her because she served with grace. They broke her because she loved without limits. But queens don't need to announce their crowns. They just wear them. Nicole's father taught her the greatest truth. Your value doesn't come from how others treat you. It comes from how you treat yourself. Darnell lost a billionaire because he never saw her worth. And that's a loss no amount of money can ever fix. I'll see you in the next story. Stay strong.